What's up, everybody, and welcome to another special edition of the Chicago Football Show. This one coming to you on a Saturday. I am Scott Bair, alongside Carmen Vitali, and our special guest from CHGO, Mark Carman, is joining us, host and frequent contributor to the CHGO Bears podcast. Thank you so much for joining the show, Mark.
Great to be with you guys. I appreciate the invitation. Looking forward to, what are we, in day 4 here? It's been spirited, so I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I'm always so thrown off when people call him Mark, too, because his last name's Carman, and so him and I are both Carm. And like in the media room,
up at least once. Like, I'm just going to say Carmen. I'm going to get two reactions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're definitely at the point where kind of camp runs all together, and we don't know what day it is. But there was something different that occurred during Saturday's practice, and that's that we saw number 10 overall pick Colston Loveland get into team drills. Now, that's a minor step and a much longer road to get him integrated into the offense, but. And I was going to say Carm. First of all,
Go on, Carm.
Mark Carman. What did you see from a Colston Loveland, and kind of what are your expectations for him as we started moving into padded practices and then those joint practices with the Dolphins and Bills?
So let's be honest, I was getting nervous about the injury and whether he'd be able to get out there because, look, it's a tight end, very hard position to learn.
Yeah.
B, you've got a shoulder injury, you've got a block too. That's a little bit scary. Yeah. But now there he is. And I was, when Ben said at the start of training camp that he's ready to go along with Braxton, it's going to be a ramp-up period, but he's going to be out there. I was like, oh, wow, that's huge news. And now seeing him today making plays, and everything I'm hearing about Colston Loveland behind the scenes, there's a lot of belief that this guy's going to be a big-time talent for the Bears, that he's doing everything the right way, and he's got that ability to get himself open. So I'm starting to get real optimistic about that the Bears actually got this one right at number 10 overall with Colston, which would be a huge deal for this offense.
Well, and you also hear Ben Johnson then talk about, I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago, where what matchup nightmares tight ends can be and how much that can put a defense on its heels, keep a defense guessing because there's so many different things that they can do. I don't know if you caught it, but Colston Loveland split out wide on some of those reps with the team drills where he's to the outside and acting as if he's a receiver. So you have 11 personnel on the field, but you've got 4 wide in the formation, and he looks like a receiver out there.
100%. And when he first came in the room, looking at, I honestly was like, wait, who's that? I didn't even know when we first saw him, because he looks, to your point, like a wide receiver. I'm like, oh, that's Loveland. He's going to have to put on some weight, which I'm sure he will do. And he actually said back in OTAs that he was able to lift. So I think he has gotten a little bit thicker at least. So yeah, you can use him creatively all over the field. And honestly, for Caleb right now, as he's developing, learning the offense, some nice, easy options here that will a little bit of a security blanket. I think he has a little bit with that with Rome, and I think Colston hopefully can turn into that as well, which would be huge for Caleb.
Yeah, I thought it was good also. And again, there are no pads, so let's say that. Yeah. But he was also involved in kind of crashing in as a run blocker as well. Those types of things you want him to see because it's about kind of mixing it up at some point.
Right.
He has to
and
test
creating
that
those
shoulder.
question marks. Yeah.
He has to test that shoulder. And if we go back to, again, I don't know what day it is, Wednesday, Cole Kmet was talking about the dynamic with Colston Loveland. It's part competition and part collaboration, right? I thought that was both a political and a true statement, really.
I loved it because, yes, I want the football too, and yes, we are going to be competing for that, and that is how tight ends get paid the money that I'd like to get paid in my next contract.
Yeah.
And, of course, we are teammates, and there's enough to go around. So, I think this combination, I never looked at this like they're trying to replace Cole. The Bears have been very clear about that.
Me too.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense. Cole is one of those guys in the locker room, you know exactly what you're going to get every single day. He's a winning player that just hasn't been on winning teams. So hopefully that this combo will be a huge thing for the Bears, not just this year, but into the future.
Well, and having a coach that knows what to do with tight ends, as we talk about all the time, multiple tight end sets. He ran that in Detroit all the time. And this offense in general, very kind of different from what the Bears saw last year, what Caleb saw last year. You heard Ben Johnson this morning talk about the different things that they're having Caleb Williams do, more under center. That's not something that he historically did in college, didn't do it last year very much. And then also, playing within structure a little bit more. So what have you kind of seen? I think today was a really good indicator of maybe we saw a little bit of progress out in those team drills.
Yeah, we'll go with a little.
I was like, I could sense it in your tone. Right
I know
there.
you're hesitating.
Like,
You're hesitating, Carm.
Well, when Ben talks about it, it's like, well, we know how to get lined up right now. We're actually coaching football, was what he said this morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, right. But then yesterday, Declan's talking about, we're doing better at the rudimentary stuff. But as far as having actual completions, we're a little bit light on that to this point. So, and Ben, when he one question day too, where he was asked to so you guys are done with that. He said, you did not quite.
Right.
So he walked that back, which was interesting because I think it's just very obvious that the Bears offense has a long way to go.
Yes,
and will they get there to hit the ground running week 1 against Minnesota? I bet not. It's on the table. But he also said a while back that, hey, the first 4 games getting into the bye week, then we'll really see where we're at. So I think Bears fans should brace for this is a work in progress.
Yeah, I think there's another milestone that's coming before that. The Miami Dolphins are coming in here for a joint practice at Halas Hall, and that's going to be a couple weeks into the camp before the first preseason game. I kind of look at that like you don't want to get embarrassed on your turf and your offense still doesn't look like it's in sync. And that's a couple weeks away. But to me, that's kind of, you need to be able to show something by that point. Like at that point, we're starting to lose the excuses of, it's early and Caleb, hasn't kind of worked in this system, because it does look disjointed to this point. And it's one of those things where, I look at Caleb and I think, gosh, he's an all-world talent. He made a jump throw today. That was great. But playing within the structure of the system, where are you at with a freak-out-meter right now, and where will you be if it's not like that on August 8th?
So I tend to freak out a little bit earlier than most.
Not you. That doesn't sound like you, Carm.
I want things. I get that things happen incrementally, and I also, I guess, probably want them now. So I'm a little I don't love what I'm seeing. This is his second year,
right?
But you also have to be fair to it. It is a new system. I see Jeff Joniak in the background just giving me such an unpleasant look right now that's rattling me. But I'll stick with my point. Look, do I think it should or could look better than it does right now? Yes. I think your point about the Dolphins, though, is a great one, because Ben underlined, because I asked him, are you guys going to play more? You're going to play more in the preseason? Mm-hmm. He's like, well, we really look at those practices, against the Dolphins and the Bills. So that is a big day. Mm-hmm. And I do wonder, as they get close to that day, will they look at, well, this is working and this is not working, and maybe take some stuff out of the playbook that's not as comfortable right now, and let's see if we can have success with the things that have looked at least okay in our practices, and let's see what that looks like against Miami.
Well, and something else that we can kind of get a better gauge of when the pads come on in those joint practices when you're going against a different team, the run game. We talked so much about the run game already this camp, about how it needs to improve. This needs to be a more balanced offense. That's a way to help Caleb, and that falls on the offensive line. It falls on the running backs. But today, we saw kind of a rotation. We saw not only DeAndre Swift, but Kyle Monungai got some reps in there with the ones. What have you seen in the way that this is developing?
So it's interesting, because if you talk to different people around here, some people like the running back room, think it's really underrated, and then some people are like, I don't really like the room at all. Yeah. I guess I'm more in the middle. It's been up and down for me. DeAndre Swift's looked great, and then he's had a couple of odd drops. Travis Homer had a terrible drop today, and he's still sort of in the mix there. Monungai, he does not have the breakaway speed, but he does have he doesn't put the ball on the ground, understands the offense. I think early you can just see he's in the right spot, and I'm optimistic that hopefully, he can be an early contributor here, because they need him to be. There's not, and where Roshan is at, I'm not sure his long-term future here. Maybe not. So I do really think if the running game gets to passable and above, it will be a big part of Kyle Monungai actually steps in and is able to do it.
I mean, I spent a lot of the offseason, and Ben Johnson said that, all the running backs are here and all the talk, and we had OZ on the show, and he mentioned that DeAndre Swift, his former high school teammate, had heard some stuff. I was screaming for J.K. Dobbins for most of the spring, and then he ends up signing a pretty decent $4-ish million deal with the Denver Broncos. But they have what they have at this point. There's still a couple street free agents, but it kind of seems like they're going to roll with it. I do think that offensive line, once they get pads going, it's going to help that group a lot. I did want to switch gears, though, kind of since we talked so much about the progress that Colston Loveland has made, and he got through his ramp-up period. Well, Luther Burden hasn't even got to his ramp-up period to this point. He's been injured with a soft tissue injury. You can't make those things heal faster. It's not an indictment. It's just the situation that we have here. But he's missing a lot, right?
He absolutely is. And look, for any of us us recreational athletes out here,
no, don't look at me. That ended years ago with the ACL tear.
Okay, even the pros, like if you have a hamstring injury that hasn't healed, dating back to OTAs, and you can't get on the field, you have to wonder if he's ever going to be 100% this year. Those things just don't go away, and so then you worry if he gets out there earlier and he pushes it, then he re-aggravates it. Now you're in a real problem. But the fact of the matter is, this is a rookie who's missing time, and that receiver room. I mean, OZ, he's not giving up that position.
Absolutely not.
So if I was a betting guy right now, and would I take the over or the under on Luther Burden catches or whatever it's at right now? I would be a heavy better on the under his rookie season. And it is interesting to me. The Bears decided to give him a guaranteed deal. You could have played this out in an ugly way. I'm not doing that. And let me know when you're ready to play, and then maybe we'll talk contract then. I think the Bears just took the high road here. This is where the way the NFL is going right now. Right. We have a lot of belief in you. But there's a reason why he fell in the draft. Now he's hurt. So whether or not the Bears got this right at 39, I think, is a very big question right now.
Well, and to wrap this up a little bit, we'll talk through another person in a ramp-up period, which is Braxton Jones. And you see this three-headed, kind of competition at left tackle. Well, Braxton Jones is out there for half of the reps with the team today. That's kind of the first that we got to see that. He was on a rest day the other day. What do you make of this left tackle competition, and how much does Braxton Jones benefit from being the incumbent?
So I think he benefits a lot, but there is a lot of positive words being said about Ozzie. So he seems like Ozzie just seems like he's jumped in front of Karan and maybe even in front of Braxton at this point, that's a huge step for a second round pick. You're going to come in year one, start week one on that offensive line, but he does have the Hall of Famer to be next to him. Maybe that gives him a little bit of an extra help that he perhaps wouldn't have elsewhere. The work ethic is there, the size is there. He looks like a little bit jumpy to me, trying to get ahead of plays. If you watch him, I think he's maybe been flagged once or twice for false starts. But they need somebody to really hold that position. I'm a Braxton Jones fan, like not super sexy, but yet like solid.
Solid.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't rule him out, but I do think Ozzie Trapillo is somebody that, as far as preseason games and watching and how he settles in, that's a big guy that the Bears fans should be paying attention to.
Yeah. I think Bears fans should really be paying attention to a lot of what we've talked about over the course of camp. There's a lot more open practice dates to keep an eye on what is an intriguing team. We don't know if they're going to be great, good, or not good, but intriguing, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. Mark Carman from CHGO, from the CHGO Bears podcast, if I got that right. Thank you so much for joining us. And after the break, Carmen Vitali and I will be talking more Bears with you on the Chicago Football Show.
There really isn't a ton of carryover from what he was asked to do, the play calls or anything of that nature. I mean, he's always been very comfortable as a shotgun quarterback going back to college and even last year. He's very comfortable in a 2-minute setting. He's very comfortable with tempo-type plays. And so now we're asking him to be a little bit more structured in terms of the play calls. Sometimes there's multiple calls. There's shifts, there's motions. There's a lot more going on mentally than probably there's ever been for him. And so at some point, this thing will start slowing down, and he's going to be able to catch up, and his physical ability will take over from there. But right now, because mentally it is what it is, he's playing a little bit slower than what he's capable of.
Welcome back to the Chicago Football Show. I'm Scott Bair, as always, with Carmen Vitali here on a Saturday at Halas Hall.
Yeah, I'm the other Carm now.
The other Carm now, but the real Carm in our hearts. That's the most important thing.
Oh, that's sweet.
And Ben Johnson, the sound that we just heard, really kind of contextualized what Caleb Williams is going through. Yeah. I don't think it excused what's happened to this point, but I feel like it contextualized it in a way that I came out of the Ben Johnson press conference thinking, I better understand the situation, especially when you and I on the sidelines of the practice fields have said so often, Caleb Williams is struggling in ways to get lined up and to do the pre-snap stuff that Case Keenum is not.
Right.
Hearing Ben Johnson explain it that way as compared to the veteran in Case Keenum who's done everything,
right,
it makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I don't think Ben Johnson meant it as any sort of excuse, but
Right.
it was just kind of an explanation, a contextualization of what they're asking Caleb to do and what that ask entails, because this isn't something that Caleb Williams is used to doing. This isn't something that most young quarterbacks coming out of college are used to doing. The under center work, it completely changes the footwork. It completely changes the way that you can get into your progressions, through your progressions. And the rhythm of the offense just feels completely different when you have to do those kinds of things, which make lining up maybe a little bit different and does make it so that it needs to be worked on and be very, you have to be very precise. And we see that time and time again in this training camp where like you'll see a ball goes incomplete down the sidelines and you're like, well, was that Caleb's fault? Was that the receiver's fault? Was that the right route run? Was it just the timing? Did he let go of the ball too quickly? All of these things literally matter down to the second. That's why you hear Ben Johnson talk about how detailed they have to be. And I really appreciated him kind of opening that up this morning and saying, this is what we're asking him to do. We're asking Caleb Williams to play more in structure than he even had to do last year in his first year as a pro. We're asking him to do all these things under center and all these procedural pre-snap things that he is not used to doing and has never had to do. So there needs to be a certain amount of grace allowed with that. And at the end of the day, we are only a few days into camp. As long as this week has felt in some ways, it's not a lot of time to be able to be hands-on with them, with the players from a coaching standpoint, and for these guys to actually go through the mechanics of it with their teammates around them. This is really the first time that they've had an opportunity to do that. They got a little bit of it in minicamp, but still not a whole lot. So I keep trying to preach patience and kind of taking an objective kind of overall bird's eye view of what's happening right now, because at the end of the day, if you get too caught up in the minutia, of course you're going to be a little discouraged. But hearing Ben Johnson say, I'm not worried at all, I don't have, my level of concern is not there yet, you take him at his word.
Yeah, and maybe this isn't a perfect analogy, but Caleb Williams is kind of like a jazz musician, right?
Oh.
As in he can go and riff and do some things that can blow your mind.
Right.
And I don't think that the Bears are trying to make him into a classical musician either, where everything has to be precise to work within the grander scheme. But I think it's one of those deals, same thing with us as writers or whatever. Like, you have to learn the basics of English before then you can throw them all in the garbage and do whatever you want. And I think that we're seeing that now, is that it's learning the basics, learning the rhythm, learning the precision, which is a great word that you had, to be able to get to that point. And then, as Ben Johnson said later in his Saturday press conference, is that they're not going to forget about his superhuman power.
Right.
They're going to take advantage of that. But right now, we are getting through the periods of, this will be the end of my music analogy, I swear, but you're kind of getting through those early, I'm just learning how to play this instrument moments where you have to get everything right. You have to read it right. You have to be on tempo. You have to have that metronome in your head, right, constantly. And it's not exactly perfect, but I do believe, and I shouldn't say I believe, it seems evident that the Bears are confident Caleb Williams will get there throughout this period. Another point that I think is very fair about just the vortex that you enter when you start training camp.
Right.
It's worse for the players, but even for us, we basically, it's like Groundhog Day. Every day is a new practice, and you're seeing it. And we've seen, between 6 and 8 hours of football over the course of the last 4 days. And you kind of think compacted, oh my gosh, this isn't getting better. This isn't doing whatever. And then you do have to take a step back and be like, okay, it's only 4 days.
4
right?
days. Pads haven't come on.
Right.
And you have to also remember, too, it's not just like Caleb Williams is, of course, in charge of being a self-starter and motivating himself, and he's in charge of his own prep. But when you see plays go awry, very rarely is it just one person's fault.
100%.
It has to be like everyone. It's part of Caleb Williams' development. The reality is, depends on the guys around him. It depends on the receivers. It depends on the running backs, the tight ends, the offensive line, which again, we haven't even seen in pads yet. so much of when you have a timing and rhythm based offense or a structured offense in the way that Ben Johnson wants to introduce this offense, that relies on everyone doing their part. I mean, football is the ultimate team game. You're only as strong as your weakest link. Whatever coaching adage you want to use, it's true. And so you have to kind of take all of this with a grain of salt and say, yes, it looks disjointed right now, but there's also 11 guys on any given play trying to get on the exact same page that have had very limited time playing with each other, playing for Ben Johnson, playing in this scheme, digesting this scheme. And there's only been so many installs also. Like, there's still a lot more to go. We heard that from both Rome Odunze and Ben Johnson himself today.
Yeah, it sounds like we're only a third of the way through it, through the second round, as many as 12 install kind of days or periods. And I think that's, it's all contextualized, and I think that's important. And it's not all on the quarterback. If there's a breakdown at any point in the ultimate team game, something's not going to look good.
Right.
And so there is all of those types of things. You do want to see progress. As the Bears have an off day on Sunday, heading into their first padded practice on Monday. That's going to be a big one, and it's something that you need to kind of continue to see and build on. I think the other reason why fans are really kind of looking at the quarterback, as everyone always does, is that you look at the supporting cast around them and you see Colston Loveland, who we spoke with Mark Carman about, him getting kind of ramped back up. And, Rome Odunze, number 9 overall pick last year. Yeah. Obviously, the expectations are high for him, despite the fact that DJ Moore is also on this roster. Right. And Rome Odunze was asked about being the go-to guy. And here's what he had to say about that.
I mean, I'm just available for whatever, comes with it, honestly. I want to get the ball as early and as often as I can, as a wide receiver. And as a playmaker, I feel like I have the ability to make this offense move and have explosive plays. So, I want the ball every play. But I play my role within the offense. And, Caleb is a great quarterback who's going to be versatile with his weapons and as well as Ben and the offensive staff as well. They know how to get the ball around. So, of course, I want to be that number one guy for him and go kill and be that duo. But we have a bunch of playmakers on the field that he's going to do a good job with.
Hearing that quote from Rome Odunze, I think that's typical Rome Odunze, right? That's his personality. He's even keel. He's not going to be a Michael Irvin type of give me the gosh darn ball, please, or Keyshawn Johnson, I guess. But I also think there's a competitor in there that believes that he should be. I mean, he's talked to me and us about wanting to be the Montana Rice and Aikman Irvin and to be that type of duo with Caleb Williams, and you got to kind of crank it up a little bit, but I think he understands where he fits and how many skill players that there are here. Yeah,
and we also heard him in the same press conference talk about how his preparation this year was a lot of hanging out with Caleb and getting reps in with Caleb, like in team structure, like at the team facilities, but then also outside of that, working out with Caleb, presumably in an effort to become that guy for Caleb, to be that safety blanket or that safety net or the guy that Caleb just has a feel for, so that when the play does break down and Caleb does do the things that he can do, he naturally finds Rome. And I think the point that you made early before we ran the quote even was like, this is the number 9 overall pick. On any other roster, on any other team, you're expecting the number 9 overall pick to be the dude.
Yeah.
And yes, you have DJ Moore on this team. Yes, you have Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. You have the run game. But if you can get 2 guys that are on the same timeline exactly and they clearly have a rapport with each other, we talked about how Rome was Caleb's built-in bestie last year. Now, hopefully, in a more comprehensive offense that can truly, kind of emerge.
Yeah, it's so interesting because DJ Moore's under contract through 2028, 29.
That fifth-year option, yeah.
Rome Odunze is going to be around for a long time, and you have an opportunity here in the Ben Johnson scheme. He's also under contract through 2029. So you have an opportunity to build within this scheme and really form a bond between those 3 and Loveland now.
Right.
A good young core of skill players with their quarterback. I think it's going to be interesting to watch, and it's been really fun to experience the last 5 days on the Chicago Football Show together, kind of talking to Bears fans every single day. We've learned a lot, and there's still a lot more that Carman and I are going to be keeping our eye on. So please feel free to rate, review, and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts on YouTube. But most importantly, can we just download the Watch Marquee app already? There's so much good stuff on there. You can obviously catch a billion Cubs games too. But also, we have another show coming up on Tuesday,
Yeah.
so you won't forget about us by then. So join us again next Tuesday for another Chicago football show. For Carmen, I'm Scott. Thank you so much for joining us all week. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll talk to you again soon.